All right, thank you. Uh, are you able to see my screen? A very wide screen.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
It's not full screen, but we can see the slide itself.
All right. Now, does that make it better?
Perfect.
All right. Thank you so much. My name is Martin Oloo. Probably I might need to have my face to be seen. Yes. My name is Martin Oloo from FabLab Winam, and I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. A little bit about the history of what we are doing. Many Fab Labs globally have been working so hard on making various things. However, a lot of the things that we keep making are either solving a small problem for someone or figuring out how to come up with something very unique, but very few of them end up into the market. And we were lucky to have a partner, an international partner, that is Toyota Japan, where we started working on an R&D about a certain vehicle seat called kinetic seat. In line with the vision of FabLab Winam, which is supporting innovation and local manufacturing, this came at the right time where we were asking ourselves, how can we start building something that can end up? I'm sure many of you keep on having these questions from people that, what do you make? Where is your product in the market? As much as we say that we are makerspaces, and of course, makerspaces in Africa, in most cases, people expect so much from us because they expect that you should be producing something and it should be in the market. And so we ended up working on a research on a fablable kinetic seat. It is called fablable because it is something that can be done in any fab lab. We work with design. Of course, we are using Fusion 360 in our design, but you can use any other software. And then parts of this seat is cut using the tools in the fab lab. There is CNC machine. We have some parts which are done with 3D printing. However, we've also moved ahead and using other parts which are locally. We are trying to look into sustainability. So we are looking at how do we use other local materials. So so with introduction, traditionally, a lot of maker spaces or producers tend to use a CNC just to produce furniture and things like that. But now with fablable kinetic seat, this one gave us an opportunity to get into the space of trying to look at the next futuristic kind of vehicle seat, whereby when you are moving in a rough road, of which most African roads are a bit rugged, then your body can doesn't get hurt so much because the kinetic seat allows you to sit and you don't get the direct impact of the rough road because it's like you are floating. So so with that, we looked into how to create a microfactory out of that. And the center of my conversation is really not on the product, but on the system, because this is one thing that many of us in makerspaces, we are looking into. How can we create some system that can help us generate a regular income? So in our microfactory, you can see, for example, here from number one, you can see the global open source design. So we are hoping that by the end of the period, we'll be able to have the design in the repository somewhere so that any other person can be able to access. And then, and of course, currently we have it together with Toyota somewhere, and both of us have been working on designs together and able to move into production. Now, then we have the digital tools which we use for the production, and then we are looking into sourcing materials locally. In our case, we up to now we are still doing hybrid, whereby we have some parts which we are using plywood, some parts we are using other local materials like bamboo and sisal, and then after using all these materials, then we have the assembly, and then from there we have the user feedback at the end. So under the materials and then production, whereby you move to assembly, that is where we have ended up figuring out how to do the microfactory. So our microfactory is looking into small other factories within the factory. So like I've said, we are currently using the hybrid system, whereby we have parts which are cut from the CNC. So that is a small factory focusing on high digital skills. Then we have another part which is using the bamboo. Again, that is another microfactory where we are learning a lot of things on wood bending and wood preservation and all other things around that. So for you to produce the wood, the bamboo material to be ready for assembly, then it is another serious microfactory which has different kinds of people helping in doing that. And then we also have because our original vehicle seat, we were using discarded safety belts to be sat on. I'll show you the picture. But then now we decided that we are now changing those belts to material which can be gotten locally, and we chose sisal. And so in that area, it also created another microfactory where we had to engage a lot of community members on how that can happen. So in the hybrid system, we have the CNC cut plywood, we also have the bamboo materials, the whole processing system, then we have sisal material, and then we also have 3D printed parts. So some of the tools which we were using include like I've said, the Fusion 360 for the designing, and then we also have, of course, the nesting, and all that is done with VCurve. Then we have the CNC router for the cutting, and then we have other tools like sanders, and then we ended up creating a lot of jigs, because when you are now working on bending of these materials and factoring all the other, thinking about all the other factors, then you have to end up building other tools. So some of the tools that we ended up developing, including weaving tool, because we've been using community members. I'll show you how that we've been doing. But then when you can move into full production, then that do not move as fast as you want. So there is the element of building some of these tools and then working with community members to run these tools. And this one also helps us to take us away from fixing our minds that when we are in a makerspace, then it has to remain purely digital. There are parts that we have to work with community members to tap into already available knowledge and skills like weaving and even rope making to do that. Then in the event that, for example, in the wood bending and the other processes, we ended up realizing that we need to do a lot of steaming. So we had to do the steam boilers and then develop drying boxes, because some of those when you're doing gluing, some of them might need up to 48 hours of drying, or even up to 72 hours. So you end up figuring out how do we quicken that drying, and how does it also help in the preservation. I will not focus so much on the CNC part and the bamboo, but I will put a lot of effort on the sisal for a specific reason. Now, under the microfactory production for the sisal, we ended up creating different links. As you can see, we have the weavers on one side, we have the marketplace, we have the fiber processor, we have the sisal farmers and the dryer. So we ended up working with different partners. Initially, we worked with a local small factory which was processing sisal. He had links with farmers and had his for decoration. So we ended up now figuring out how do we work with farmers directly so that we can speed up the work, because otherwise we had to rely on their space, on their speed. So so what was this small factory within the smaller factory going to create? It was meant to create um, a market for almost everything. We have farmers, so the farmers were able to help us get affordable local materials, and this one ends up creating economic impact to the community. Right now, of course, we've also worked with the Ministry of Agriculture on how they are going to work with creating a network of farmers who can now purely work on sisal production. For the longest time, most of our farms have been having sisal just used as boundary marks. So they're just planted along the boundaries between one land to the other, just to mark the end of the boundary. But now that they are realizing that it can be used, then it has increased the interest of the community members. Then there is the element of jobs and skills. So we are currently working on training different groups on their skill sets, and also available skills. For example, the weavers. We For the longest time we thought a lot of people know how to weave, but then when we wanted something of the width of the belt, then not many people could produce that. So we had to work with different people to be able to get to that. But even up to now, we are still working on making sure that we can come to the level of good quality. And then, of course, I've talked about income, and of course, creation of the SMEs, because we are now ending up creating different small groups of people who will be working with us in along the value chain. So this is the image of the FabLab kinetic seat, and this image is actually not taken in Kisumu. Initially, Kisumu used to have a factory called Kikomi, which was doing clothing, and they were also taking a lot of sisal. And many years, about 20, 30 years ago, the factory closed down and people uprooted all the sisal, and right now they are only remaining in the fences. So this will also revive the production. So our microfactory for the sisal, this is how it goes. It comes from the harvesting of the sisal, and then we move to decortication, whereby we move with the machine to the farmer, and they are cut, and fiber is extracted instantly, and then they are washed. Of course, the washing, they are transported back to our space, and then the washing takes place, dried in the shade. there is also the brushing and the treatment. The treatment helps in making sure that the the tensile quality is improved, and also to avoid simple decay. Of course, if you are going to use it on the road every day, then water and other impurities can be able to make it wear out very fast. So these are some of the processes that we are doing. Of course, there's also the element of giving it color by using dye and all that. Now, when it comes to weaving, this is where we had a lot of struggles with community. They know how to weave, but they can only do 2 or 3 strands. But now, when we wanted a bigger strand, then it became a problem. So this is one of the samples of the rope making machines that we were developing. Of course, right now we are working on a beta version, but this one was able to give us a hint on how to go by. And you can see a number of family members were able to take up this work, and they were doing it by hand, even though it was not able to give us very quick result, because one seat needs about 22 belts, and one belt uses about 30 ropes. So we have to make rope first. Then after making the ropes, then ropes are used to make the belts. And for you to make sure that you get the quality of the belt, there must be a way in which you can maintain standardization. And then also the element of testing the tensile strength and elasticity, which we also did. And yeah, so finally, the image you see on the bottom right, I believe it's here, right? Yes, this is what we were hoping to get at the tail end. So far, we have moved into focusing majorly on the product, but now we are now continuously building these systems. So we have one system, which is focusing on bamboo production alone, whereby we use a lot of jigs to do the bends and all that. And we also have another bit where we are using the CNC machine to cut the frames. However, we are looking forward that in the very next version, we will be able to reduce on the use of the use of the plywood, because we also didn't get very good quality of plywood. We've tried doing different plywoods. We've done different waterproofing tests, and most of them were failing us, and even some of them are not the same size. You know, when you have done your design and you know that this plywood should be, let's say, 18 mm, and you realize that it's not 18 mm, it's 19, or part of it is 18, part of it is 20 and all that, then you end up messing your whole work. So we are looking at figuring out how we can make sure that we get control of our full production, because as you know, plywood is first of all produced by some other factory. Now on this picture, the picture with the black belts, that was the first one which we did, which we are using the used vehicle belts. But now we are moving from that one to using locally available belts. Yeah, so we were also looking into, after getting into this space. Somebody speaking? So I'm just finishing. Now, after digging into this space, we were also looking at, as much as the vehicles that we are building might take a little bit longer to get into the right market, but we are looking into what other options do we have with the materials that we've been learning. So we are looking into how do we also divert the work that we are doing from just focusing on the vehicle seat into using other products or with the sisal, with bamboo. Now that we are almost becoming professionals on bamboo bending and treatment and all other parts, what other things are we able to produce or to work with that? So uh, over and above, what we are working on currently is trying to perfect different microfactories on how they can work together and working on different logistics to make sure that by the end of this period, if we finally share all the things that we've done to the makerspaces, then makerspaces can also figure out or pick some of the things which are relevant within their areas on how to build microfactories so that by the end of the day, we can start building mini factories within our spaces so that we don't just remain spaces that focus on maybe uh, building small things, but we can also come up with a product that can be sustained in the market. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much, Martin. It's a wonderful experience and wonderful thing that you are doing in Kenya. And honestly speaking, these are some of the things I think I've had several meetings with Pete, who is on the call, and have mentioned so many things about how things like these are what makerspaces and Fab Labs are supposed to do. That is create something that can actually make a very meaningful impact. And I think that is all. Whatever we talked about today is what resonates with us. And I'm sure a lot of people here would want to ask some questions. So leaving the room for anyone who wants to ask questions.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Martin. My name is Yadi from Kigali. Been a while without
Pleasure.
talking to you, but I would like to just thank you for your great presentation you tried to present to us. It's really, really shocked me in terms of I'm so excited to look this happening any Fab Labs or makerspace around the continent just implementing the microfactory as a living generator. Also, I like the way you just mentioned what the citizen or other people looking for us as a makers. So they expecting to have like that type of product, but with your idea, it's clearly showing the procedures from the start to the end, and also marketplace where you can even partner with different organizations to just keep serving them. I really like it, and I'm looking forward to just starting using the resources. It's really good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Yadi. And please, anyone else with either input or question? Hi, Pete.
Oh yeah, yeah, great presentation, Martin. Great to see what you're doing and what you're achieving, and you've obviously thought a lot about the process and the development. What do you think? You know, it's obviously this is about kind of manufacturing a specific product, but what do you think are the key takeaways that other makerspaces can implement in terms of how they can yeah, be a part of that sort of supporting and generating livelihoods?
All right. Thank you. I think just like I started, to be very honest, for a better part of our lives, makerspaces or Fab Labs still sound foreign to many people in our communities. And so it is just important, especially for African Fab Labs to and makerspaces to try to position themselves to be as relevant as possible to the community members. And so one of the things that might be key takeaway is probably scanning your environment and looking at what might be a real need, and then working on how do we build processes around that. Um, uh, because in our case, somebody might ask why the choice of the kinetic seat. Uh, like I said at the beginning, is that we got a partner that is Toyota Japan, and Toyota, all their mind is vehicles. So we had to we were working on the vehicle seat because this is what they wanted to work on. And to us, what is important to us is building the system around that to understand how the factory works and what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. And also another thing is not many of us should not be stuck on it has to be digital. You must allow yourself to move even outside the digital. So long as it's something that you are making, you don't need to stick you to remain that it has to be digital. However, digital is very important because it's easy to replicate. It's easy to access. But my biggest focus is how can we as makerspaces make sure that our spaces remain relevant to the community, while at the same time, how do we figure out how to get revenue, because we are looking at sustainability. And then lastly, how do we look into sustainability in terms of supply chain? In Africa, one of the another biggest challenge is supply, especially when you're working on things of electronics. You will really suffer. At times, your project can delay simply because you can't get a few motors here and there, or you have to take your board to be produced in China and something like that. So supply chain, if we can figure out on how do we get alternative to what we have to import, then that will be nice. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's really excellent. Yeah, I liked what you said about a kind of hybrid model. I think in terms of supporting the local farmers, then yeah, using those materials is really excellent. And certainly a lot of users in my makerspace would always default to 3D printing everything, and we would try and encourage them that there are other better ways of making things. And I think, yeah, if you can combine the kind of advantages of digital manufacturing in terms of, like, say, repeatability and speed and things like that, and customizability, but also bring in the sort of traditional craft elements that allow for more sustainable materials, then I think that's a brilliant combination.
Thank you,
Maybe
Pete. Yeah.
maybe my dream one day is if one day all of us we can work on probably one large factory that can be distributed in all our maker spaces, because we have different resources, we have different networks, and we are lacking that manufacturing bit. So if we can figure out how we can just pick one item, which we can do survey, we look at what is so common among us, then can we decide that we want to build this factory? Let's pull our resources together, and once we've figured it out and we've refined it nicely that this one is working very well, then we easily distribute it among the different maker spaces with clear value chain, and then we see how far, because people are out there waiting for our impact. I know we have our impact in our small ways, but there is a huge expectation out there on how do makerspaces change lives. Thank you.
Yeah, I know Andrew's left, but I guess his internet of production is presumably that's kind of a big part of their ethos of this idea of distributed manufacturing. So yeah, it'd be good to hear his thoughts at some point on it.
Yeah. All right. Any other input? We have a few minutes before we can log out. And I must say, what you mentioned, what your presentation today actually reminds me of one of the panel discussion I witnessed in Cape Town, which I think Andrew, Kirsten, and other people from UNDP were all on the stage. And one thing that came out, Andrew actually came from Andrew, was that it is very critical that Africa we look at how we can work on distributed manufacturing. That is having to find a way to create our own solutions to the local challenges that we face. And I think everything that you've talked about today, from the value chain, from the supply chain process, up to point where all makerspaces can be able to create the solutions and also identify the problems and find a critical way of solving it, is something that really I think we should look at in detail. And I'm glad today we have several makerspace stakeholders on the call, and I hope that it's not just going to be today, but we will continue to talk more about your ideas and how we can be able to build upon it for more like a successful growth together. Yeah, and before we go, I've just shared a link. The link is about the space list that we have, all the spaces that have sent their details to me and Kirsten, and we've been able to upload with their logo. Some of them do not have logos because we don't have, or we couldn't find their logo, so they can look at it and share with us again. And where there is the need for anyone who would want to, let's say, give more details about their information, they can reach out to me, to Kirsten, to Sam, or even to Martin or Andrew. We have a form that they can fill, share their logo as well, then we can be able to do that. I'd like to say that today has been a very successful conversation. Andrew came on board by talking about what the project from UNDP, from a particular organization, I've forgotten the name, it's about, and basically it's about green skills. And I hope that all the makerspace and even those that are not within the associations group at this moment will be on board and get to learn how to learn that kind of skill and also go ahead and train other people. So I also hope to see all of us next week, next month for another call. And the next speaker will be announced very soon. So please just be on hold for now as we figure out who is going to speak on our next call. And there are people that I really wish like they could join us, and people that have been in the call for a very long time then, but their details are still not with us. So if they can also reach out, I think that would be very good. All right. So Kirsten is also on the call. I don't know if Kirsten, you have anything to share.
No, just thanks very much for facilitating and thanks for the great presentation. And yeah.
All right. So thank you to all, and hope to see you again. And let's keep communicating. And thank you so much, Martin. You're always available for any other thing. And even having to create this very nice and beautiful network is also because of you. So I think we should also acknowledge you on that, and we hope that things will even get better and we're able to make things more brighter for the maker spaces. And yeah, see you again, and let's continue the conversation. Bye-bye.
Sure. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.